Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world famous Rich Wilson Show.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the world famous Rich Wilson Show. And William Squire is now following us. Thank you. That's a good friend of mine right there. It's good to see you on the channel. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, let's get this show on the road, shall we? Folks, by the way, just like William Squire just did, make sure you click that subscribe button and hit notifications. Let us know that, that lets you know anytime that I'm on. You will get notifications to see all of my new stuff. That's right, folks. Had to piece this show together in a hurry. Was handling a lot of things. So tonight what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about COVID dick. Is that a thing? Could that be a thing? Don't know. We're going to do a react to Jen Psaki's press conference and a new H2O, or not H2O, hydrogen motor, which for some reason we don't have the photographs up for that. I don't understand why we don't have that. I'll have to get those photographs up for you, and so you can see them, because it's not there and I don't know why. Sometimes there's things that show up and sometimes there's things that don't. It is how it is. But anyway, folks, so let's go ahead and get started first with the H2O engine. There she is. That's the concept design currently for the first ever hydrogen motor. I keep saying H2O. Well, hydrogen is part of this, but is in the mixture. But anyway, Toyota and Yamaha are working on a hydrogen burning engine. Brands along with Kawasaki, Subaru, and Mazda last year announced an initiative to find a carbon-neutral alternative to electrification for the automotive sector. Understand that with everybody pushing to electric engines, one of the problems is that it requires electric in order to make them function. Well, electricity's got to be generated from somewhere, and electricity is generated from power plants. So that's been one of the big pushes, is how do we come up with something that's a little more, carbon friendly? So a hydrogen burning V8 has been, in the works for a while. It's not like this is something new, okay? But it's been in the works for a while. Burning hydrogen primarily produces water vapor along with a small amount of nitrogen oxides, but no carbon dioxide, which makes it good for the environment. Just think about that. Driving to your friend's house could make water. Everyone who comes to test drive the prototype car would start off somewhat skeptical, but emerged from the car with a big smile on their face in the end, because yes, they do have a car that does. They have built an engine that runs off of hydrogen. The engine is rated at 450 horsepower with a 400 foot-pound of torque and features a novel 8-in-1 exhaust system that Yamada says creates a unique high-frequency exhaust note. So you guys who love that four-banger sound, guess what? This makes a kind of a unique high-pitched noise. I wish I had the audio of one. I've seen them test one of these engines on the engine stand, but that right there, folks, is the prototype motor that they're talking about putting in. Now, I have run into different setups where people have attempted to take and do a hydrogen conversion on a standard V8. It is possible, although it is not cheap, and the equipment required in order to make the conversions and stuff like that, it's still out of reach for your long distance traveling. Most people that have designed these, you've seen some on YouTube where they've done it in their garage, only lasts for a few moments. It's not like it's a long term deal. Well, a bunch of Japanese auto manufacturers are starting to attempt to design one where we're talking about operating on a long term. Now, a lot of people are like, well, wouldn't that do? Well, the thing is, what about, resources to get it and stuff like that? Folks, you can get it from salt water. And since the ocean seems to be rising, it means the source is becoming more optional. It's a lot more complicated than that. Let me just say it's a hell of a lot more complicated than that. But the fact is that they are working on a system where you can actually take and pour this into a holding cell, into the car, and it will actually do the conversion for it to go into the vehicle for the ability to produce hydrogen for burnable for combustion. So still operating off of the standard combustion engine that was designed, over a century ago, but now taking it, instead of it burning gas, which is a hydrocarbon, now they're talking about burning hydrogen, which the backside of the byproduct of burning hydrogen is water. It's kind of in a way, a win-win situation when you think about it. So there you go. So check that out. I really hope something like this at 450 horses and 400 foot-pounds of torque. That's not bad. You're not towing, a heavy load with that motor, but it's not terrible. In a car and an SUV, it could work. I don't foresee them going into the truck market with these right away, because I don't necessarily, 400 pounds of torque on a 450 horsepower motor. Maybe. But that one's definitely going to need some work. It's going to be interesting to see what car they design for normal usage, because the test vehicle that they have been using is not exactly outfitted for you and the family to get into. There's a seat, and then the conversion system is where the back seat and part of where the passenger seat is. So it's not exactly like it's been designed with that idea in mind. I don't know. Give me a second here. I'll see if I can look up, see if there's a picture of a hydrogen car. What it looks. I think right now it's purely concept. Okay, so yeah, that's not a bad photo. This is it's still a concept idea, and I'm going to bring this up for you as soon as I can get it up for you guys to see it. Give me a second here. It takes me a minute to load some of these things up for you when I decide randomly out of nowhere I'm just gonna bring up photographs. Let's see here. There it is. So this is a concept of a hydrogen vehicle. Okay, of course, Toyota. Of course, your power control units there. This is mainly run off of the operation of a 4-cylinder setup. Your fuel cell stack, of course, where everything's got to go through, because it's still going to require some batteries. Another battery setup there, and then your hydrogen storage tank. Once it creates it, there's some conversion involved. There's some definite conversion involved. But like I said again, this is just a concept of this, the one that they were test driving, and I couldn't get a picture of it. The video is copyrighted, so I can't show you the video without permission. But the one that they showed, pretty much a lot of this stuff was sitting in the back seat and the passenger seat. So not exactly like you're taking the family out for driving this. They haven't shown any notes on how long they can drive the car on, with this setup. We're still waiting on that. But these are the preliminary test runs, and the V8 seems to be doing very, very well. Now, the thing is in a car this size, you're not fitting a V8. So, obviously, they're designing the V8 for a much larger platform. But if you can make it work in a V8, you can also make it work in a four-cylinder as well. So, hey, like I said, kudos to them for that working out. All right, so now to our second story of the night. Is COVID dick a thing? Now, evidently, it is. Man claims COVID-19 made his penis shrink. Now, of course, y'all are thinking, Rich, this isn't a serious story. No, yes, it is. An anonymous man in his 30s who had to be hospitalized after contracting COVID-19 last July now claims that the disease left him with a shrunken penis and erectile dysfunction. He said, when I got out of the hospital, I had some erectile dysfunction issues. Those gradually got better with some medical attention, but I seemed to be left with a lasting problem. Before I got sick, I was above average. Not huge. He's not like hung like a horse, but definitely bigger than normal. Now I've lost about 1.5 inches, becoming decidedly less than average. Okay, if you're above average, you lost 1.5 inches, and now you're decidedly less than average. You were at average before. If it's way less than average now, and you only lost 1.5 inches, you're lower. I mean, just sit and let's look at the numbers. If the average is 5 inches, and you're now decidedly less than average, and you lost 1.5 inches, the difference between being above average versus decidedly less would be a bigger drop than 1.5 inches by the numbers when you really think about the numbers. And I don't know why I'm sitting here trying to do a mathematical equation on somebody's dick size. Dr. Ashley Winter, urologist in Oregon, though, has confirmed that COVID dick is a real thing, and that they're finding out that men who have contracted COVID, one of the side effects has been erectile dysfunction. So, gentlemen, this show is not sponsored at all, but you might want, if you got COVID and you're having some problems down there, you might want to look into rooming. Okay? Just saying. According to the doctor, it is becoming more and more prevalent in cases of males, both vaccinated and unvaccinated, that one of the symptoms of the proposed long COVID, which has been discussed recently, is erectile dysfunction. There has been, in cases of both male and females, notice this doctor said male and female, there has been multiple cases of different sexual dysfunctions that have come as a result of contracting COVID. So, if you caught COVID, there's a possibility of that. Now, guys, how many guys out there have caught this? Yep. Okay. How many have caught it more than once? Okay. So, some of y'all might want to get out the old measuring stick if you can get it up. If you can't, then it might be time to see a physician. Now, and let me tell you something, gentlemen. One of these things, one of these deals, a lot of guys will go around and they don't address the issue, and it leads to mental health problems. It does. Believe it or not, it leads to this. Now, a lot of men will say, "Oh, well, no, that won't affect me." Oh, okay, I got Ollie over here that also says, He says, sounds pretty cool. I think you're talking about the hydrogen engine. But so understand, if you're having problems in that department, go see a doctor. Do not be ashamed to look your doctor in the face and go, Doc, and I have a female doctor. Okay? I have a female physician, and she started putting me on blood pressure medication. Okay? And I told her that I wanted to be weary of the blood pressure medication because let me tell you how bad my blood pressure is. Okay? My blood pressure average is 220 over 160. That's stroke level. Okay? And so we've been putting me on medication and trying different medications. And I told her, I said, one of the things that I want to try to be careful of is making where my parts don't work. Because the last time I got put on a bunch to get me down to a normal level, it ended up not working right. And that bothered me. So don't tell me, men don't need to do that. Well, that doesn't bother me. Yes, it does. That's horseshit. Okay, I told my doctor to her face without question. I said, look, Doc, I'm cool with getting on blood pressure medication. Ollie's like, COVID dick does not sound cool at all by any stretch of of manhood. No, it's not. Okay. But I told her straight up. I said, I don't have a problem taking blood pressure medication as long as my dick works. If that doesn't work, then we need to do something different. Because I'm not good if it's not working. It bothers me greatly. And men, let me tell you something. If COVID, or either whether having COVID and you've gotten the vaccine or not the vaccine, whichever one, doesn't matter. If you now after this have noticed that there is a problem and you may be suffering from erectile dysfunction, by all means, please God, tell your doctor. These are the kind of conversations you need to have with your doctor. Men are like, oh, I don't want to say anything about it because it embarrasses me. It doesn't embarrass me. I want to fix the problem. Okay? It doesn't embarrass me. I don't give a damn. My doctor is hot. And I will talk to my doctor about my dick. Because it's important to me. My sexual health is important to me. My real health, my heart beating, is also important to me. And I want to make sure that's straight. But that's important to me. And men, do not sit there, insert anger management meme. Don't sit there and think that you can't talk about it, because you can. I know that after Saturday, I'm going to have to I'm going to have to schedule another exam that men don't look forward to. I don't think women look forward to it either, but that's getting a camera shoved up the wahoo so I can make sure that I don't have anything wrong with my colon. And folks, you got to. Because the last thing you need to do is decide you're not going to do something about it, and then we end up losing you to colon cancer. Okay? Gentlemen, once you get to 45, you need to get your prostates checked. Prostate cancer is a thing. And so if you have one of these problems that develops after getting COVID, you need to talk to your doctor about it. Okay? You need to. Now, if you've never had COVID and you still contracted this issue, you still need to talk to your doctor about it. Okay? So don't screw around with it. I know I know the article itself is hilarious that the guy's like, well, I lost 1.5 inches on my dick because of COVID. Okay. And then you got a doctor, a urologist, that's backed it up. But don't screw around with this, folks. If you got problems, if you've got dysfunctions happening after this, you need to see your doctor. We need to start finding ways to resolve these problems. Why? Because you may benefit yourself and get this fixed. But think about all the other people out there in the world. If they figure out how to fix it with you, but they haven't figured it out anywhere else, they might be able to fix everybody else. Then you could be a hero instead of being too damn embarrassed to talk about it. You literally could be the case that fixes it for all the others if you just open your mouth. So it's just some FYI. Make sure you go to your doctor. Do regular checkups. God knows with everything else going on in this world, you need it. All right, so we do have a Justin Trudeau update, folks. Yes, Prime Minister Blackface over here rescinded the emergency orders. The orders that they remember last night, I told you guys that they were still working on the vote and they had made a decision. Well, they'd finally made a decision that they were extending his emergency orders act, which was pretty much close to martial law, but not quite. This afternoon, Justin Trudeau rescinded it after all this garbage, after all this bullshit. Justin Trudeau decided this afternoon, well, the truckers are no longer a threat, so the Emergency Act no longer is needed. Isn't that like fixing the barn door after the horses have come back? I mean, it's just like, and to think, and here's the bad part. What I didn't understand is the Parliament, the Canadian Parliament, is a majority of one party that was pissed off at him for the Emergency Powers Act, but then voted and passed the extension of it. Like, really? But anyhow, so there you go. So it's gone. And the problem is now we're talking about there is trucks on their way to Washington, D.C. to do a trucker convoy protest at Washington, D.C. And of course we can all tell because the fences are up. They're putting the fences up because we can't have fences on the border. Oh, fuck no, that's not a thing. But we can have fences up around the Capitol. Because I guess fences work for them, but not for the country. I mean, these are the same people live in gated neighborhoods. So go figure. But yeah, so that's our Prime Minister Blackface update for tonight. I would have any updates on Ukraine, except the fact is I was completely accurate on what I said last night, but we're going to watch Jen Psaki try to sit there and spin this the other direction. She even has a graphic. Now I've only watched 5 minutes I only got to watch 5 minutes of this. So you're going to be stuck with it being as fresh to it as I have, as I was. But of course, there's the White House press conference. I will pause this at moments when I want to make comments, but you guys are now. This is the point where probably I lose half my audience because nobody wants to see Jen Psaki. But it's understandable. But we're going to do a react to this. Why? Because I literally had 15 minutes to put the show together. And I decided I would go ahead and do this. And if you don't like me doing these reacts on the show, by all means, let me know. Before I get started on this, though, please also understand that we have our own website. That is www.thericwilsonshow.com. Go to the website, check it out, subscribe for a soon-to-happen newsletter. I can't make any guarantees when that will happen, but there's going to be one. Also, we have a merch store. I should really get some screenshots of the merch store and put them up. for you guys to see that. But we do have merch. We have our iconic Stop Fake Hate shirts, phone cases, hats, bags, sweatshirts, t-shirts. We have a yoga mat, earbuds. We've got it all. And then, of course, the Don't Let Others Determine Who You Are from the show as well. Great stuff. Check it out. And all the money from the sale of our merchandise goes to making sure this happens. So let's get started on Jen Psaki speaking today and trying to back up the bullshit on the Ukrainian or the Russian sanctions that aren't going to do anything to the Russians. And I hope I'll try to make this somewhat interesting. There's some people in there that they need some hair club for men.
Wednesday? Are we Wednesday? Yes. Okay. We have a graphic here today because it's been a while since we've had a graphic. So I wanted to deliver on that. So as you all know, we announced our first tranche of sanctions in less than a day after the beginning of the invasion, with allies and partners from the European Union, the United Kingdom, Canada, Japan, and Australia.
Real quick, these sanctions that they put on Russia, do you know they're the same sanctions that Biden removed a year ago? I don't know if y'all remember that, but this was part of the stuff that he eliminated that Trump had done.
And what we wanted to provide to all of you today is an overview of what we're seeing as an impact on the Russian economy. Obviously, the bite of these sanctions has not taken place yet, so this is largely in anticipation. So let me just go through a couple of these points. Borrowing costs for the Russian government has spiked to almost 11%, highest since 2015. Foreign investors are fleeing Russia. The ruble is trading at its weakest level since November 2020, one of the weakest currencies in the world. In response to inflation risk, the Russian central bank has hiked rates 8 times in the past year to 9.5%.
Real quick, the American dollar ain't far behind it.
And Bloomberg reported, just going to cite Bloomberg there, that the fortunes of Russia's super rich have tumbled $32 billion this year, with the escalating conflict in Ukraine poised to make that wealth destruction.
Real quick, as a comparison note, the American people have lost over $47 billion in inflationary costs. Sorry.
Much larger. So as I started off saying, this is before the bite even takes place, and this is just after the beginning. I mean, we've only had obviously a first tranche here, but this is a vicious feedback loop that will get more severe if Putin doesn't escalate. So as he's looking at the impact on his own economy, on his rich and wealthy oligarch friends, and on the people of Russia, these are the facts. Regardless of what you're hearing from the Kremlin about the impact. Also, just wanted to note, because I know that we put out these sanctions when a lot was happening yesterday, just wanted to give you a little bit more detail of them. Obviously, you hopefully have seen the announcement and the statement from the president about Nord Stream 2. We can come back to that, but that is an additional step today.
I said last night the Germans absolutely and utterly refused to acknowledge or endorse stopping of Nord Stream 2. This afternoon, before this came out, the Germans stated that they would no longer, that they would not be certifying Nord Stream 2 as long as the Russians are in Ukraine. But there is a caveat to that. And I don't think she's going to talk about it, but I'll wait till we get to that, because she said she's going to circle back to that. And we'll see if it even gets brought up.
And also on banks, in the announcement we made yesterday, what we did was we used our most powerful sanctions tool to target two major state-owned Russian banks for the first time. That is the significance. These banks can no longer, what it means is they can no longer make any transactions with the United States or Europe, and their assets in the financial system will be frozen. They are the glorified piggy banks, some of the glorified piggy banks for the Kremlin, including one of them, which is a key financial institution where support military finances has been held. And this will have a significant impact on Russian leadership.
No, it won't. No, it won't. That right there is a lie. Here's the reason why it's a lie. Do you really think Russia does a majority of its business and financial transactions in two banking systems? Does anybody on earth even believe that statement? We're talking about a country that deals heavily in the black market, deals heavily with other communist-style countries, and is a major importer and exporter of goods and services to China, Venezuela. Do you honestly think that they're only running transactions through two banking, a majority of their transactions are through two banking institutions? This is absolutely inaccurate. This is a lie, and they know it is. And believe it or not, actually, the Russian economy, the government's economy itself and its transactions runs through a myriad of like 30 different banking institutions. Even I know that.
In the inner circle because they're state-owned, controlled banks controlled by them. We also were clear yesterday, but again, there's a lot going on, so I just wanted to touch on this lightly, that no financial institution is safe. And the authority that was announced yesterday means that we can expand this to other financial institutions.
Over on Facebook, because you guys can't see it on the multi-stream chat over here on this show. It's why I keep Facebook over here. So my buddy over here says, sure, I believe they only use two banks, just like I believe the North Korean money is legit. I thank you. Absolutely thank you for that. That you made my day on that joke.
In Russia, and we have every capability and capacity to do that. Second, we made an announcement about sovereign debt. And essentially this means, I know there's been some commentary out there, some from Russia, of course, that they have a rainy day fund. A rainy day fund is limited. A rainy day fund means you can only tap into it until the rainy day fund is done. The ability to purchase sovereign debt means that you can gain access to additional funding.
Russia's rainy day fund is at $14.7 trillion. $14 trillion. Just let that sink in for a minute.
And what we are essentially doing is cutting off their ability to tap into that from the United States and Europe. Finally, on elites, what is significant about this, and somebody asked me this question about what's different. So some of the people who were sanctioned yesterday are repeat people that we have sanctioned in the past. But the additional step we took was that we sanctioned family members, because what we've seen in terms of tactics that they've used in the past is they have moved, they're very sophisticated, some of these oligarchs, no surprise, they've moved money around to children, to family members, so they could still have access to it. And we wanted to reduce the likelihood of that, so that is an additional step we took. So just wanted to cover that. One other note, today also marks 100 days since the president signed the bipartisan infrastructure law. Time flies. It's also day 400 of the administration. In the past 100 days, we've hit the ground running, rolling out nearly $100 billion worth of programs and funding to state and local governments. This funding will help rebuild crumbling roads and bridges, replace lead pipes, help provide high-speed internet to every family in America, and produce concrete results that change people's lives for the better. To continue this momentum.
Except still, we have the highest inflation we've seen in 50 plus years, and fuel prices are going through the roof because we're no longer oil independent. But we can rebuild bridges, but here soon, not a single fucking person will be able to drive over them. Just saying. Sorry.
Today, the Department of Transportation announced nearly $450 million available to strengthen port infrastructure and supply chain resiliency, and obviously there is more to come. Chris, your first day in the AP seat. Welcome to the front of the room. No pressure.
So a few questions about Ukraine. First, talk about the impact of the economy on Russia. Ukraine is also feeling a lot of economic pain right now. What more is the White House prepared to do to shore up their economy, provide them with financial assistance?
Well, we have provided them an extensive amount of financial assistance, including recently announcing $1 billion in loan guarantees. And that is something we are open to building upon. And we are going to continue to assess what the impact is on the Ukrainian economy, what is needed on the ground. That applies to both access to economic assistance as well as humanitarian assistance.
She's having problems saying it because she doesn't want to sit there and say the reality of it. That this administration has done nothing for the Ukrainian government. They've done nothing. We gave you $1 billion in loans. And who the hell is going to pay it back when Ukraine gets taken over by the Russians? This is kind of like the $1 billion that Barack Obama gave Solyndra. Boy, that really worked out for us.
So I don't have anything to announce today, but we will continue to be a large provider and supporter of financial and economic assistance to Ukraine.
A new AP poll found that only 26% of Americans want the U.S. to play a major role in this crisis. Given that this could increase costs on Americans, gas prices, other economic ripples, has the White House done enough to prepare Americans for what the U.S. role could be and what impact it could be on their lives?
Well, this is very important to the president personally. It's why he gave remarks, delivered the remarks he did last week, and why he has spoken several times to provide updates to the American people over the last couple of days. Two pieces I would note that I think are very important as Americans are tuning in and learning more about this potential conflict, this conflict that's underway, I guess I should say, between Russia and Ukraine. One, the president has no intention of sending U.S. military or U.S. troops to fight in Ukraine. It is hard to know, because I don't think it was in your poll, how people assess what major involvement means, but that has not changed in terms of the president's view and his approach. Second is he is going to do everything he can to reduce the impact on energy costs for the American people. And that means engaging closely with partners around the world. It means considering a range of options that are all on the table to reduce the impact on the oil markets. And that is what would impact energy costs.
I said this during the president's speech, and I'll say it again. You want to reduce the impact of the cost of oil on the United States of America, open the drilling back up, open the pipelines back up, and allow the country to go back to a petroleum independence. We had that before. We can do it again. But did you notice she's not really giving an answer? The president is considering options, and the president is considering options with other countries. But nobody has a fucking idea, and nobody has a plan. Even though the answer to the plan when it comes to the cost of oil is right there. By the way, over on Facebook, Ollie's like, for fertilizer, please see Jen Psaki. Yeah, because there's a lot of shit spewing out of that mouth today.
But the last thing I would say is that the president and the White House, we make national security decisions based on what's best for our country's national security, not on the latest polling. And if you step back, what hopefully the American people will see and have seen is that while Russia has sought to divide our allies and the American people, the president has sought to revitalize our partnerships.
Quick idea. You might want to start looking at the polls and start making some decisions based on some of the polling, because today the president's approval rating dropped below 40%. Just saying.
and alliances and unite our country. He's standing up for our national security interests and bedrock democratic values against the aggression of a dictator threatening to further invade a sovereign country. That's why he's doing what he's doing. So we're less focused on the politics of Ukraine and more focused on preventing a war.
The other question I had was yesterday, the administration said the goal of the sanctions is to prevent and deter a wider invasion of Ukraine. If Russia does attack, as U.S. officials are warning that they're imminently prepared to do, does that mean that strategy has failed?
Well, I would say as we look at it, we're focused on accomplishing two things. One is implementing serious costs for the actions that have already been taken. So the actions in the Donbass, and we've taken steps beyond what we did in 2014, which obviously I just outlined at the beginning of the briefing. Second, yes, deterrence is part of our objective. If he goes further, we will go further. We have a range of tools at our disposal. I mentioned some of the potential financial steps we could take that could impact financial institutions. That is very significant and could have a very significant impact. But we have far more options beyond that, including export controls. And what export control steps would mean, Russia, as President Putin looks to the future of Russia, there is a lot of access to different industries, technologies that he needs and would rely on in order for the economy to grow and flourish in the future, whether it's AI, whether it's other technological sectors, biotech, semiconductors, a term we've used a lot in here. And what this would do would essentially cut off access to that. That would also be a significant step. So point is, we have more steps we can take, and we're going to continue to apply those if he escalates.
How the hell is, first of all, she didn't answer the question. Did you hear the question in the beginning? Before she went on that tirade about shit they want to do? He asked if Russia still invades and takes Ukraine, does the Biden administration constitute this attempt as a failure? She didn't answer the question. Now, the second part of that, it cuts off their ability to get to semiconductors and chips and all kinds of electronics, right? That's horse shit, because Russia still has an ongoing trade with China, and China is producing this shit because they're stealing everybody else's intellectual property and designing this shit. So they can still get access to this. The words that I want to come out of my mouth will probably get me banned from all the social media platforms that I am currently streaming on right now. I cannot believe she had the audacity to go, well, it'll prevent them from getting a hold of certain materials. Please tell me stuff that you can't get from that he will not be able to get, in China. Please. What? Because China's not going to stop from doing trade with him. They're not. And so this sanction is not going to stop this. And besides that, here's another thing. Nothing says that there can't be trade between two countries when it's not money. They can trade natural resources. They can trade things like that, because and she didn't cover this, okay? Like the Nord Stream pipeline, right? Okay, that's been shut down. Here's the problem, right? Germany gets over 60% of its natural gas from Russia. This pipeline is designed to be able to make that faster. Without it, Russia is going to cut off the natural gas flow to Germany. Germany no longer uses nuclear power for energy. They use natural gas for energy. Okay? They use natural gas for to make electricity. Without it, they have no electricity. How long do you think that country is going to go where they're operating off of only 40% capability? I'm willing to bet that certification will end up happening after all. And in fact, I'm willing to bet anybody, if anybody thinks that this administration is telling the truth, that there will be no pipeline and Russia cuts off the natural gas to Germany until the pipeline gets certified. Anybody want to bet me? Because I'm saying that Germany will certify the pipeline the moment they got to start shutting the power off. Who wants to bet against me on that? That they'll keep the pipeline from going active. I don't understand why the United States thinks they can dictate whether or not that pipeline goes active. It's Germany's pipeline. Do you think just because NATO says not to do it, Germany can't go, screw you, we need the lights on.
Thanks, Jen. Given the possibility that an attack seems particularly high today, can you walk us through how the president is spending his day, how his security team is spending the day, if they're doing anything in these what could be these final hours before an attack, if that's the case?
Well, I've seen the reporting on this, but let me be very clear. We have been saying for days that Russian military forces are in an attack position. That has not changed. They are capable of operationalizing at any point in time. We are in constant contact with the Ukrainians about their positioning, about their capacity and capabilities. We're not predicting a day, a moment, or an hour. That has been our assessment and what we've been communicating with the Ukrainians for some time now. Let me tell you, though, something else that we're also seeing or assessing right now. We believe, obviously we've laid out a game plan that we believe that President Putin has been implementing over the course of the last several weeks, if not longer. It's clear, and what our assessment is that President Putin did not expect the United States to have the level of information that we have, did not expect us to put out this amount of information that we have put out, did not expect the global community to be as unified, including in how unified the global community was in putting out the sanctions yesterday. And what we're seeing now, our assessment is that he is improvising, adapting, and we're having to respond and adapt his own actions to as we are responding to him. So we don't have a new assessment. I will tell you that what the president is doing is what he has been doing for several days now, which is continuing to meet and engage with his national security team. Obviously, he had a PDB this morning, and he will receive regular updates from his team. He will continue to engage closely with partners and allies, something that he has been doing for several days now. But that is a continuation of what our engagement has been.
Given that we could be looking at an imminent attack, is there anything this White House, this president, believes he can do to stop it?
Well, I think what's important to note here is we have been saying imminent for days now. And what I'm conveying to you is that we're also seeing adjustments by President Putin, or the need to adapt in response to what our actions and what our response has been. So what the president has been doing has been continuing to work with partners and allies to ensure we remain united, to leave the door open to diplomacy, but to make very clear to President Putin and to our partners around the world that there will be significant consequences beyond what we have done already should he invade further.
She's full of crap. She really is. You can almost see the look in her face when they ask these questions. Like, how dare you have the audacity to question this? Okay, it's not going to do anything to Russia. Do you think that Putin would have done this without knowing that the United States was going to attempt to do something? Remember, I told you that they don't run through through two banks like they said before. So the sanctions don't mean squat. That what the sanctions were. And I don't even think we need to go any further, because pretty much I've watched enough of these press conferences over the last several months. The questions are going to be the same throughout the thing. It's just going to be the same questions and the same rhetoric over and over and over again. Okay? So we don't even need to go any further than that. So the sanctions that we put out were there to say we did something, but they mean nothing. Okay? They literally mean nothing. Okay? Sanctioning the two banks. When the Russians are running off of multiple different banks, they run on the black market. Saying that like by cutting off their access to funding, they don't have the ability to buy the electronic material in order to make things, which is horseshit. They still have an open and running trade with China. Okay. And we're not doing any of the stuff to restrict China. Okay. Germany purchases 60% of its natural gas from Russia. So, of course, Germany's going to eventually have to break and go ahead and go back to purchasing. Russia can trade in other items, and they can trade in material items and natural resources instead of cash. They have a massive backup fund in order to fund their operations, even if for some reason you find a way to stop their ability. This trading on the debt thing, okay, which that's become a thing, okay. March 1st is when that sanction goes into effect. Any of the trading off of the previous debt to March 1st doesn't apply. It is from March 1st on. There is billions and billions of dollars in debt trade that has existed prior to March 1st. So how does that sound to you, though? Oh, well, it's March 1st. They won't be have access to trade, and debt trade, because debt trade happens. I'm not going to it'd take me an hour to try and explain that. Not going to do it. Okay. But it's a thing that happens. But now it's going to be in effect starting March 1st, which means all the debt that gets openly traded on the market will still be able to be traded of any debt that's been traded prior to March 1st. After that, and no, but there's billions out there. So there's still availability for that anyway. So quite literally, we have done nothing to Russia. We've done nothing. We haven't done anything to them that's really going to affect them. They're still going to do what they're doing. And it doesn't matter what the White House says. They put sanctions in place so that way they could say they put sanctions in place. We didn't have this problem 2 years ago because there were sanctions in place that actually affected it. Why? Because you had somebody in the White House that actually understood how the Russian government actually functioned with their funding and knew certain sanctions and regulations could be put into effect that would actually affect them, and knew where to hit them if they decided to do something stupid, where it would actually matter. It's one of the reasons why Russia didn't seem to do a lot of things under that. Everybody kept saying, and I know the arguments back and forth, and people can have that feeling all they want. But one of the problems that they had with the Trump administration saying, well, they're in bed with Putin because they're not really doing anything. No, Putin didn't do anything while Trump was in office. Why? Because Trump knew where to hit them. He knew how their financial situation worked. Why? Because they run their country like a business. And he knew exactly where to pinpoint sanctions to actually hit them. By sitting there going, oh, we sanctioned and blocked off their ability to use 2 banks out of the 30 that the Russian government uses. Like that does shit. Oh, well, a majority of their military funding comes out of this one. That's also not true. That's also not true. Okay. Every bit of this is a crock of crap. Every bit of it. None of this is legitimate. Every bit of this just is absolute garbage. And don't buy it. They're feeding you a line of crap. The sanctions don't affect what you think they do. And they're not going to really do anything. The only thing Putin understands is strength and resolve. He understands that when somebody will not back down. He doesn't believe that this government is capable of actually standing firm. Why? He's watched in 2 situations where the United States has tucked its tail between its legs and bailed under this administration. One happened to get 15 of our service members killed. The other was before any of this started getting anywhere, bailing everything out of Russia and Ukraine. Before anything got anywhere. And then leaving the Ukrainians standing there going, what? Why aren't we doing something now? Zelensky sat there and looked at the Vice President of the United States and said, if you truly believe this is going to happen, like your intel tells you this is guaranteed, Why not do this now? Why are you making us have to wait this out and suffer the consequences of your inaction? And this is what Putin is playing this off. He knows they won't do anything, and he can pretty much do whatever the hell he wants. And even if this is just him wanting to prove that he has a bigger dick than everybody, and goes in, marches into the two places he calls states now that he said they are, wave his flag and say hi there to everybody, and then go home just to be a dick. He could do that because he knows that this country will not do anything. Hell, there was talks about putting missiles back in Cuba again. This government's not doing shit. They didn't even talk about it. And it was legitimate intelligence that this was a thing that they were looking at doing. This is crazy. This is how bad this operation is. How anybody can honestly... What I don't understand is... So his approval rating's at 38%, right? Who the hell are the 38% that still think he's doing the job? These are people that vote. I love how she spun off we've been, it's been 100 days since the infrastructure bill, and we've been in office for 400 days. Thanks for the reminder. I had hoped I was wrong. That this administration wasn't going to do anything. They were only going to make crap worse, and they have. Look, I'm not going to tell you the last administration was great. In fact, no administration, except maybe 3 in this country's history, were great. Everybody else, some, and some, okay. 3, probably 3, really good. And no, Abraham Lincoln's administration was not one of them. I love the man to death, my favorite president on earth. Why? Because he walked into office with the country ripping itself to pieces, and by the end found a way to get the country back together. He had to do some things that made him public enemy number 1, and eventually got himself shot. Got him shot for it. But there's a lot of downsides to that administration. The thing is, they made a lot of promises that they were going to do stuff. They run around talking about how they've created 4 million new jobs. No, they haven't. That's a lie. This administration, I'll give them credit for about 330,000 jobs. But over 4 million jobs? No. 40 million jobs? Nope. 400 million, whatever number you want to throw out there. No, they haven't created those jobs. Those jobs existed prior to the pandemic. And then now that the pandemic is going and they're easing all the restrictions, guess what? People are going back to work. At least for the people whose job, the companies didn't just completely collapse under all of this, people are going back to work. And they're counting that those are jobs created. Horse shit. No, they're not. They're not jobs created. This administration has done squat. And the bad part is some of my diehard leftist friends now can't name anything this man has actually accomplished. What happened to every home was supposed to get a vaccine testing kit, and every home was supposed to get N95 masks? Nothing showed up at our house. I don't know about y'all, but it didn't show up at our place. Oh, we're supposed to go somewhere and pick them up, right? That's not what he said. He said they were going to send them to people's homes. Everybody in their home was going to be able to get one of these. Everybody in their homes was going to be able to get these masks. And everybody's like, how the fuck are you managing this? We can't get TVs from the harbor of San Francisco at the port to Best Buy. How are we getting all these masks to all these houses? I mean, one of my friends was like, yeah, it sounded great in theory, but, you know, where are these masks coming from? They're not being made in the United States. Hell, look at your masks. They're not made in the United States. They're made in China. N95 masks are not made in the United States, people. 3M, that makes quite a bit of the N95 masks that exist in this world, are made in China. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think it's was it Shenzhen is where they're made, which is a very large commercial industrial country or city. I know a lot of things that I've gotten that I've ordered from China come from there. So, folks, they've done nothing, and all they do is spin, and try to take the credit for things that they never did. That I didn't need to hear. Like I said, these press conferences, the reason why I didn't continue on to the end of it is these press conferences go that way. Every reporter in there is going to ask the same questions, only they're going to ask them. They're going to try to ask them in a different way to get her to answer to some of them, because she's already not answered like 4 questions, and we've only gone through 3 reporters. She's bad about that. If you ever watch, especially if she gets caught in a way she can't spin it, she always go, well, we'll circle back to that. And they never circle back to that. They never go back to it. You know? So, it is what it is. Yeah, and the bad part is, it's not rocket science. But they make it sound like it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's enough for tonight. I started a little bit late, so I ran a little bit later than 7 o'clock, but I hope you guys enjoyed the show tonight. By the way, I'm going to be a guest on the 321, or what is it? 231 Go podcast on iTunes tonight at around 8:30 Central Time. That's I believe 9:30 Eastern. So if you want to check that out, I don't know if it's live or if it's recorded and then played later, but I'm going to be a guest on their podcast tonight. So check it out. Folks, for everybody here at the world famous Rich Wilson studio, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you had a good time. Folks, like I said again, check out my website. It's www.therichwilsonshow.com, www.therichwilsonshow.com. Please check out the website, buy some merch, support the channel. You know, and take care of us. Because if you love the show, then please, by all means, hit subscribe, hit the bell for notifications. If you're watching me on Twitch or if you're watching me on Facebook, make sure you follow. Make sure you put up the notifications, and you'll be notified every time we bring new content on. Also, if you go to the richwilsonshow.com, you will see a line of all the social media platforms that we are currently on. If you want to watch some old stuff out there, you can go on to Rumble. We're on Rumble as well, and you could see some of the old stuff on Rumble as well. So, folks, there's a lot of options to see our show, and we keep increasing them every single day. Folks, for everybody here at the world famous Rich Wilson Show, I'm Rich Wilson. Thanks to Dave. Thank you, Dave, for all of your help. And we'll see you tomorrow. I have no idea what we're going to talk about tomorrow. But just stick around. It should be good. Okay? I will guarantee you that everything will work itself out. Because that's the kind of people we are. We try to take care of you. So, ladies and gentlemen, for everybody here at the world famous Rich Wilson Show, I'm Rich Wilson, and we're out of here. We'll see you guys later. Peace.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.